Hey, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to attach your crochet pieces to a wooden dowel in order to make a wall hanging. There are a few different ways that you can do this, but the method I'm going to be showing you today is my favorite, and I also think is the easiest. And to get started, you are going to need a wooden dowel. I'm actually using a bamboo cane for mine. I find they work absolutely perfectly. And you want to make sure it is a little bit longer than the width of your piece. So about an inch or two is good. And that's just going to stop anything slipping off the edges. You also need a long piece of yarn, and in my case this piece is very, very long, and that is simply because I have over 100 stitches along the top of my piece here, and I need to work into every single stitch and around the dowel. So if you want to figure out exactly how long you need your yarn to be, all you need to do is count the number of stitches across the top here, and then wrap your yarn around your dowel that number of times, and then also give yourself a little bit extra so that you've got a bit of wiggle room and some yarn to weave in at the end as well. And to get started, we are going to thread that yarn onto our yarn needle, and we want to make sure we are starting on the back of our work. So this is currently the front, so I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to come up to the top corner here. It doesn't matter which corner you start with, but I'm going to start in the top right hand corner, and I'm going to begin by weaving in my end of yarn so that I don't have to do that at the end. So I'm just going to go under a few stitches in 3 different directions to secure my yarn in place. So that is one, and I've got to pull it all the way through. And once I've pulled it all the way through like that, I'm then going to go back in that direction once and then back in that direction once. After we've finished weaving in that end, we're going to come up through the very first stitch in the top corner here. So we're just going to go under there like that, again, pulling the yarn all the way through. Now we're going to take our dowel and we're going to place it at the top of our wall hanging like this. And we're going to bring our yarn over the top like that. And we're going to find the next stitch along. And again, we're going to go into the top of it, making sure we go under both of those bars and making sure the yarn needle is going under the dowel. And then we're just going to pull that all the way through again. And you're basically going to repeat this process all the way along, just finding the next stitch along, inserting your yarn needle into it, pulling it all the way through, and then wrapping the yarn over the top of the dowel like this. So as I said at the beginning, this method is really straightforward. If you've got a lot of stitches like mine, it is going to take a bit of time. But if you've got a smaller piece or you've used a thicker yarn, so you've got fewer stitches, it really shouldn't take long to get this finished. And you want to make sure that you are pulling this yarn relatively tight so that these strands are quite snug on the dowel. You don't want them moving around too much because then they risk slipping off the end. Once you get all the way to the opposite end of your wall hanging, we're just going to weave this end in exactly the same way that we did when we started. So we're just going to find a few stitches to go under, and we're going to go back and forth 3 times. And then once we're done weaving that end in, we can just cut it really close to the fabric. And it is a little bit visible on this side, but remember, this is the back side of the work. If we flip it over, we can see that that strand is not visible at all. So things are looking pretty good right now, but the next step is to attach a cord across here so that we can actually hang this from the wall. For this, we're going to need another strand of yarn, and I've made mine about twice the length that I actually need it to be, just so that we've got a little bit of room to play with. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to one of the ends. Again, it doesn't matter which one. And I'm just going to tie the yarn around the end, leaving a bit of a long tail. And I'm going to do a double knot so that it is nice and secure. And then what I'm going to do with the loose end is I'm going to hold it along the dowel like this. And then I'm going to take the longer end and I'm going to wrap it around the dowel and over that loose end about 5 times. So just like that. And then I'm going to tie these 2 pieces together. Again, I will do a double knot so that it is nice and tight and secure. And then with the long end, I'm going to come over to the other side. And this is where you need to decide how long you want this hanging cord to be. So I don't want mine too long. I think about there looks good. And all I'm going to do is tie the other end of the yarn around the opposite end of the dowel. Again, making a double knot. And I'm going to do a similar thing to what we did on the other end, but this time I'm going to hold the hanging cord that we've created across the top of the dowel, and I'm going to wrap the loose end around the dowel and over that strand, and I'm working from the outer edge of the dowel towards our hanging. And again, I want to wrap about 5 times. And then I will tie these 2 pieces together, again, making a double knot so that it is nice and secure and it's not going to come undone. And that is our hanging cord created. And all that's left to do is to hide these 2 loose ends that we have. So again, we can turn our work back over. And we're going to grab our yarn needle. And we're just going to hide it in some of the stitches as we have done previously. And once you've done that, your project will be all finished and ready to hang up. This giraffe pattern that you see me working on today is now available on my website, along with a matching elephant pattern, and they can be bought together as a bundle. So make sure to check out the description below for links to both of those.